Testing!
Yeah, it got you.
1, 2, 3!
Oh my god. Alright, stop that.
Because you have headphones. That's funny.
You know, I normalize your voice before I...
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you don't hurt my ear.
Okay.
I learned my lesson.
Join us on a stroll through the strange, frightening, but always intriguing world of the unexplained. Join us as we tiptoe through the darkness with your hosts, Lizzie, and I'm Bethany. Thank you for joining us to this episode. Now, okay, we ended last episode and we said that it was going to be a surprise.
Surprise!
Surprise! We are doing...
Oh, you want me to say? Skinwalkers.
This was your idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so a skinwalker. I want first, don't look at any facts or any historical accounts or any stories.
Do you jerky?
Yeah, I got jerky.
I want a piece of jerky.
Yeah, oh, you're not going to eat jerky while we're doing this. Okay, that's gross. Anyway, what do you know, just off the top of your head, not what you've researched, what do you know about skinwalkers?
Quite a bit, because I'm a Skinwalker fan.
Okay, well then I guess I'll go then.
I
only thought...
I mean, I can tell you everything that they say on the TV shows, because every TV show that has Skinwalkers is a different.
I mistake the two with skinwalkers with Wendigos all the time, but I know the difference between them. I just, accidentally confuse the two. Skinwalker is Native American legend, and it has to do with their... with people who practice dark magic and is always evil, and it eats people. And if you have one in the wooded area, you need to call the Winchesters, and they'll come and take care of it for you.
Winchesters.
And that's what I know.
That's a supernatural reference. You gotta watch that show. Okay.
If they don't
hopefully
know,
you did more research than that.
If they don't know what that reference was, I don't think I want to know them.
You don't get to pick and choose.
Just saying.
We welcome all. Even those who are not fans of every little niche Bethany likes.
That's not a niche. That's a very popular show. I'm still stuck on season, I think it's 11.
Yeah.
Or 10, I can't remember.
I haven't gotten to the end seasons either.
Yeah, I gotta actually watch those. Anyway, okay, we're back to the subject. So I've done research, and I thought I would start out giving the background of what I could find on skinwalkers.
Okay.
And we're mostly focusing, in on the Navajo. Their legends of skinwalkers. Though every Native American tribe has their own versions of skinwalkers, or some sort of skinwalker. Okay, so according to Wikipedia, I did look up Wikipedia first about skinwalkers. And
you're so defensive about that.
Hey, I love Wikipedia, okay?
No.
People should give money to
Wikipedia. No
Wikipedia.
offense, I have used Wikipedia in many college papers that I wasn't supposed to.
Give to Wikipedia. They really could use it. Anyway, in the Navajo language, Yi Naldushi translates to, by means of it, it goes on all fours. While perhaps the most common variety seen in horror fiction by non-Navajo people, take that word that I just said and completely decimated, skinwalkers, is one of the several varieties of a type of skinwalker. The legend of the skinwalker is not well understood outside of Navajo culture, and that's because they don't want to talk about it. And when we were on the Paiute Reservation, they didn't like talking about it either. I had really good friends.
Yeah, we heard a lot of legends, but we never heard anything about skinwalkers.
Yeah, they just didn't want to talk about it. Mostly because even ones that were like, it's legend. It was like bad juju was about it was bad luck to even bring it up and even mention it. Why go there? So this is all from what people could scrape together.
Well, we had friends that young pothead kids, but even their parents wouldn't tell them these stories until they were older. So
they have a quote by a Navajo a tribe member, and their quote was, "What happens when a skinwalker puts on the skins is we as Native people are not opened up to a barrage of questions about these beliefs and traditions. But these are not things that need or should be discussed by outsiders at all. I'm sorry if that seems unfair, but that's how our cultures survive. So,
I respect that.
They've kept their culture secret and because of trying to keep it together. The white man came and they just...
Now I kind of feel bad about doing this podcast.
I think that it would be better if we had a Native American in here to discuss a lot of their beliefs. But
they wouldn't. They would just tell us not to talk about it.
We're just going to go over what we can find. So this is, according to Wikipedia, their skinwalkers are Navajo witches. They include and one of their Navajo witches can be many things, but we're focusing on the skinwalker aspect of it.
Actually, it would be fallen hunt. If I get the word right, Hatali, that were medicine men. Actually, they're wise intellectuals of their tribe who fell to the dark side.
Yeah. So this is how they had put it. Skinwalkers represent the antithesis of Navajo cultural values. While community healers and cultural workers are known as medicine men and women, or by the terms in the local indigenous languages, witches are seen as evil, performing twisted ceremonies and manipulating magic in a perversion of the good works medicine people traditionally perform. In order to practice their good works, traditional healers learn about both good and evil magic. Which, okay, stopping right there, that is so smart. You need to know what the evil ones are thinking instead of just saying, don't even think about it, don't even look at it, it doesn't exist. Don't worry about it. So that's actually smart. Most can handle the responsibility, but some people can become corrupt and choose to become witches. So it's almost like becoming a Jedi.
Yeah, I know. I was reading that. I thought the same thing. Jedi.
So, according to the Navajo, animals associated with witchcraft usually include tricksters such as the coyote, but can include other creatures, usually those associated with death or bad omens. They might also possess living animals or people and walk around in their bodies by locking eyes with them. Skinwalkers may be male or female. Skinwalker stories told among Navajo children may be complete life and death struggles that end in either a skinwalker or Navajo killing the other, or partial encounter stories that end in a stalemate. Encounter stories may be composed as a Navajo victory story, with the skinwalkers approaching a hogan and being scared away. So a hogan is a sacred place, Navajo religion. So non-native interpretations of skinwalker stories typically take the form of a partial encounter on the road where the protagonist is temporarily vulnerable, but then escapes from the skinwalker in a way not traditionally seen in Navajo stories that take place away from home. Sometimes Navajo children take European folk stories and substitute skinwalkers for generic killers like the Hook Man and all that good stuff. But typically, that's not how a skinwalker works, where you're driving along and you see one.
Did you do the research? Did you come up with where they started out to be beneficial?
No. And I did not come across anything good about a skinwalker. In fact, okay, let me, now, if you go to NavajoLegends.org, it's a great website. It tells you the Navajo's origin stories. It tells you creation. It has a whole lot of stuff on it. It's a really great website, and I encourage anyone listening that if they want to look further into this to go to this website. It's great. But according to it, it says many Navajos believe firmly in the existence of skinwalkers and refuse to discuss them publicly for fear of retribution. They believe skinwalkers walk freely among the tribe and secretly transform under the cover of night. The term, which is the one I really badly destroyed, the Yi Naldushi, literally translates to "with it goes on all fours." So I've said that earlier. And in the Navajo legend, a skinwalker is a medicine man who has attained the highest level of priesthood in the tribe, but chooses to use his or her power for evil by taking the form of an animal to inflict pain and suffering on others. So yeah, I guess there would be some that can transform that are doing good.
So, what I heard, and I can't say how legitimate this is, but I found it on several websites, where it said that during the dark time in American history, the Trail of Tears, when they were pushing the people off of their land, that they went and discovered how to become skinwalkers from going into the Anazi ruins.
Mm-hmm.
And they were using the skinwalkers to spy on the military that was the armies that were coming in to push him out and to get an advancement. But afterwards, they turned dark. And I can see how they would turn dark because it was a dark time in their history where people were suffering, people were dying.
So that's one form of how they could be helpful to the people. But it's really not common.
If that is legend's true,
they were used for good, but finding stories of a good Skinwalker. I can see how
it was born from all the misery that was happening at that time.
They already had Skinwalkers before that. It's just that those people were using it for good. But this legend goes back very far, further than when the white man showed up. So I would not. Okay, so to become a Skinwalker requires the most evil of deeds, the killing of a close family member. They literally become humans who have acquired immense supernatural power, including the ability to transform into animals and other people. According to the Navajo Skinwalker legend, these evil witches are typically seen in the form of a coyote, owl, fox, wolf, or crow, although they do have the ability to turn into any animal they choose. Because it is believed that Skinwalkers wear the skins of animals they transform into, it is considered a taboo to wear the pelt of any animal. In fact, the Navajo are only known to wear two hides, sheepskin and buckskin, both of which are only used for ceremonial purposes. Those who have talked of their encounter with these evil beings describe a number of ways in which a Skinwalker will try to inflict harm. Some describe hearing knocks on the windows or banging on the doors or on walls. Others have spotted an animal-like figure peering in through a window. According to Navajo Skinwalker legend, they are seldom caught. Those who do track a Skinwalker and learn of their true identity must pronounce the name of the evil one in full. Once this happens, the Skinwalker will become sick and die for the wrongs they have inflicted against others. So that's the legend from what I was looking up of Skinwalkers in Navajo.
Yes.
So I don't know what it would be in another tribe. You'd have to look that up.
Okay, well, actually, when I was doing research, I found a lot of mention of another tribe, the Anasazi, and I thought, ooh, really? And they actually, a lot of them connecting the Skinwalkers originally to them.
Okay.
In fact, like I said, the Navajo found them by going through the ruins of the Anasazi. So when I did research on the Anasazi, the first thing that caught my interest was their name means the outsiders. Now, if you know anything about Native American tribes, their names usually mean the people, us, we, our tribe.
Mm-hmm.
It's always personal. So if they're called the outsiders, then that just means that they were named by other people.
Okay.
So finding this, I found that the Anasazi are basically wiped out before the colonists came over from Europe. But they had things, they were extremely advanced. They had roads. Their agriculture that was laid down was used and adopted by the Hopi people who took over the lands and are still being used to this day.
Wow, that's over, 1,000 years ago?
Yes, so, but we don't know anything about them. We know that they had, other than what we can get from archaeology and other people's stories, they built their homes on the side of cliffs, so they also were known as the cliff people. The cliffhanger people.
The cliff dwellers?
Yeah, cliff dwellers, that's it. Okay, and what we could draw, in their holy places, which were underground, were called the Kavi, there was some paintings that Kokopali, who I love the Kokopali stories.
Yeah, but Kokopali didn't come from there.
He was all around there.
Yeah.
He was several tribes out of Kokopali.
Which, by the way, let's side note, do you know what Kokopali is?
Fertility god?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so everybody out there, just so you know, when you're going through the store and you see Kokopali on sheets, blankets, towels, and you're like, wow, I want to have that in my home. Just remember that horn he has,
the flute,
that's not a flute.
Well, in some legends it's a flute, but other times it's just his huge erect penis.
Yes, it's his penis.
It is definitely a phallic symbol. And his hump was actually a big bag of his seed.
So, I'm just saying.
That's why I love the dude. Okay.
Alright, back to the Skinwalkers.
Okay, and they found some masks.
Oh, I've seen the masks.
Yeah.
They're
So, as some animalistic mechs.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. This kind of makes the Skinwalkers a little bit cooler, doesn't it? That their legend might come from an ancient people that no longer exist.
Well, you know what, though? Okay, so if you take what they were saying about the Skinwalkers, that they have to, I always compare them, I usually put them in with the werewolf, and that is wrong. It shouldn't be, because in a lot of werewolf legend, they're bit, scratched, and then they turn into a werewolf, right? But not all of them. Some of them had to do the same thing that the Skinwalkers had to do, and you're talking about, okay, so you take 1,000 years ago, the tales over in Europe of how to become a werewolf is almost parallel with how you become a skinwalker in areas that white man that we know of have not stepped foot yet. That's,
You think that there's real shapeshifters out there?
Yes.
And what do you mean? Because in Europe, they had the witch's belt.
No.
They had the ointments.
Okay, they had the ointment stuff, but they also had, in some of the tales, you had to go through an initiation. You had to do something similar to what the Navajo wrote about skinwalkers, and you had to wear the animal pelt.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, there's a lot of similarities.
Well, the witch's pelt was an animal pelt. It was a pelt. On one side was supposed to be human flesh, and on the other side was the wolf or animal that you wanted to change to its flesh.
But it has a lot of things that are similar to the Native American legend. And it's just this, if you have a tale, okay, it's kind of like the biblical tale of the Great Plague, the Noah's Ark. Okay. If you just take the flood and you look, every culture has a story of a flood, right? So
actually, you are getting very close to the Jungian belief that on a level all cultures are connected. I mean, we're all on a subconscious level, we are all connected together.
Sure, why not?
And that's why we share such things like war goddesses. Even cultures where women are almost a subspecies, they have war goddesses.
That's true. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, is that I think that if you have, every culture has a story similar to that, I think there's a little grain of truth.
Oh man, I would love to do one episode where we go dig into the Jungian archetypes.
I just think that, in my opinion, for me, because I believe everything's possible. That doesn't necessarily mean I put a lot of stock in it. But if this legend is in a lot of different cultures and it's got similar sounding things, then something like this could actually exist. Could be real.
Well, shapeshifters, especially where it involves an animal skin of some sort, usually you can change somebody by throwing away that and burning that old skin.
Okay.
When they shed it in most cultures. I'm thinking I've heard this in some Native American tales, not necessarily Navajo. I've heard this in Irish stories and in Norwegian, I believe. And I think even an African one, because they had the shape-shifting hyenas and other things.
Yeah.
They had a lot of actually shape-shifting creatures there. But, it's a huge space. But, do you know how to fight a skinwalker?
You say, I'm assuming, a prayer?
No.
Okay, how do you fight them?
You say their name, remind them of the person they are, and shame them, basically, back into being... we know it's you, John. Turn back now, sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You are actually appealing to the human side of them, which means that their mind is not gone when they're in animal form. And you're fighting, unlike other shapeshifters, when you are going against a skinwalker, they have magical abilities. It's not at all necessarily just them attacking you as this animal.
Okay.
It's usually magical.
Okay, follow me on this logic. I'm gonna go on now. In the book Twilight.
Oh God.
Okay,
oh, God,
just follow me. In the Twilight. No. Jacob, who turns into a wolf, okay? He's talking in that book where he goes away for a couple of weeks or a month, I can't remember the time, and he's a wolf the entire time. And he says that he has to come back and become man again because he forgets what it's like to be human.
Yeah, that's actually very common with European werewolves.
Yeah.
Where they forget that they're human.
So I'm just saying it is something that that has a ring of truth to it.
It is actually was touched on by Terry Pratchett and George R.R. Martin in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, see? So, I mean, and laugh at the Twilight. Okay, look, Twilight, not the greatest of books. I can understand.
Oh, no, she does. She takes a lot from other stories.
Oh, yeah.
She just mixes it in with a lot of glitter.
I'm just saying, it's easier if you put a little bit of the pop culture into it. It's a little bit easier to understand and follow the logic of what they're saying.
A little sugar to take down the.
Well, but so I mean, okay, so I could see how they would have to. You'd shame them, but once they've locked on to you,
I mean,
it's pretty hard to get rid of them.
What I like to say with it, especially with European shapeshifters, is that there's 3 ways to change. It's birth, bite, and book.
Yeah.
Which is, you're either born as one, you're either bitten, which is...
Or scratched.
Relatively new, the idea.
Yeah.
Or book, which would be the witchcraft by spells.
Yeah.
So these would definitely fall into the book shapeshifters.
We're going to have to do...
I don't think they can change by birth. I've never seen anything where they were born.
On a Skinwalker, they have to... You know what? You have to choose that's the way you're going to go.
In fact...
They're not born that way.
To get to the higher levels, I've heard that they had to kill their relatives and their children.
You will see, every legend is a little bit different, but it always involves a blood sacrifice.
Yes, and again, I'm going to say that most Navajos don't want to talk about it, so we can only assume that most of what we have is just corrupted knowledge.
But that also plays into a Wendigo, because in the same breath, if you kill and eat of your family or of your tribesmen.
A lot of tribes will talk about the Wendigo, though.
Yeah, but you'll turn into it's the same sort of thing. It's like that ultimate betrayal, because you're living in such... You need your fellow person to survive.
But the biggest difference between the Wendigo and it is because the Wendigo is cursed.
Yes, that's true.
They have no control.
That's true.
For the Skinwalkers, they were like the Hellfire Club. They can do whatever the hell they want, they chose
to do that. Okay, so do you have any stories of Skinwalker encounters?
I had 2 stories on Reddit.
Always a good place to find a tale or two.
So this one was posted by 2 girls for everyone, which is weird because if you think about it, is it 2 girls for every girl? Then it's a world that never stops with girls. We couldn't move for all the girls.
That hurts my head. Go on.
Okay. So thank you 2 girls for everyone for that.
Yes, thank you.
Image and story. Navajo Skinwalker story. Please be advised, if you are traditional, you may not want to read this story. This is a warning they posted first. My Skinwalker story. I'm half Navajo and half Mexican. For over 20 years of my life, I lived on the Navajo Nation reservation in North New Mexico. My Native American side of my family always warned us to be careful at night. My grandparents would always tell me stories of these shape-shifting witches who can curse you, kill you, or mess with you. We call them skinwalkers because they would take the skin of dead animals and wear them to change into the animal or something in between it, a human or animal. Not a werewolf. I never believed in it. Really, I'm only half Navajo and light-skinned, so I was never treated the same by most people here, so I drifted away from the culture and thought it wasn't for me. So it was around summer, so this happens when I was in high school, so about 6 to possibly 8 years ago. I would have been like 15 to 17 then. I used to hang out with a group of guys who liked to do a lot of delinquent type stuff. Smoke cigs, stay up all night, all the guys playing video games at somebody's house. Then at 3 a.m., if we felt like it, we would go sneak out to Paradise. I know it's ironic, the name. It's basically a giant metal pipe that carries irrigation water to all the farms. But really, it was also a spot for kids to drink or get high in the evenings. Actually, this sounds pretty tame for kids, guys.
No.
Not that delinquent.
Need something to do.
Yeah. However, the place did have a scary history of kids and adults who drowned or died in the night. But I always thought those were urban legends also. But at 3 a.m., that was our time. We as boys would test one another to cross this pipe. Sorta in an initiation. See how far you could go. You usually could go all the way across. Now keep in mind that pipe goes well over 3 stories high. It's also wide. I'd say as wide as an average car. We would walk this thing for kicks in a group of 9 at 3 a.m. So one night, me and a small group of friends were driving around bored at 2 a.m. wanting to spook each other. So I said, let's go to Paradise and walk the pipe. As to most of these friends I was hanging out with had never done that like I had. They agreed. Pumped up on energy drinks, we drove. It was pretty quiet. The sky was dark. The night was cold. The boys with me were Michael, Cordy, Tommy, and Theral. Now Theral was the driver because he had the car and his family was pretty well off too, so he never had to worry about cash. We got to the place and he didn't want to go. He said his parents were traditional and he wanted to just chill in the car. Basically, he wanted to text some chick, I'm sure, without us bugging him. I told him it's fine, keep the car locked and running in case we see something scary. Me and the other boys went on without him. As we got on the pipe, a few of the guys were scared and had me to take a lead. As we crawled, I'd say 1/4 way in the pipe talking and laughing, I noticed a faint white or light gray bat bigger than my head flying around us. It dived for us a few times. We dodged it, but then Tommy slid back because of his Converse he was wearing and almost fell off the pipe. I reached out to him, grabbing his right arm. Michael had grabbed my shirt collar and Cordy had grated him. All together we got back on the pipe shaken, and we almost laughed about it, as guys usually do. Past the half point on the pipe with no problems. But as we got 3/4 of the way, Michael saw something. You see at the end of the pipe there is a hill. Behind that hill it is very brightly lit because of a church somewhere off in the distance. Anyway, on the hill there was a black figure with pointy ears. A dog silhouette. Now, Michael was a tough guy. He yelled at the thing, saying, "I'm not scared, you fucking skinwalker," and tossed a few rocks he had in his pocket.
That doesn't seem like a wise thing to do.
It sounds like a guy kind of thing to do. One rock hit the pipe and the other fell into the brush below. Ooh. Not intimidating the skinwalker, I'm betting. No. The shadow silhouette dog stood up on 2 legs like a person. We all freaked out. Jaws dropped. Then Cordy said, "Look, another one to the left." Tommy said there's another one on the right. So 3 silhouettes of pointy dog-eared people on the hill. I told them to back up so we can get back to the car. The thing to the right and left of the hill started to move down the hill towards us. Now there's just one standing guard on that hill, and the one who first stood up. Now we're trying to go back, but we're still 3/4 the way under us. Complete darkness. It was quiet for a few minutes. Then we heard a girl crying, sounding like she was hurt and scared, almost in pain. We're overwhelmed with a strange feeling of wanting to help. Mike, that's a strange feeling? That should not be a strange feeling.
I don't understand that one, but okay.
Michael wanted to go back towards the end and crawl down and help this girl. I almost followed too, but inside I was like, no, this is wrong. Something isn't right. So I yelled at him and everyone saying, are you stupid? Look at the thing up there on the hill. Did you not see those things? It's a trap. Screw that false crying. If that girl is hurt, we'll come back when the sun's up in 2 hours and check.
He's the hero.
5 a.m. or 6 a.m. is sunrise. Now, the moment I said this, the crying stopped. All the guys freaked out, saying they can't believe what came over them. They said they almost forgot what we saw before. Halfway on the pipe now, and we hear a native drum playing a powwow. We start running on this pipe, 1/3, almost to the car. Corey stops us. We can all hear it we can all feel the sound like a pack of snarling, growling, yelping coyotes. But it's pitch dark below. But we know they are under us. We run, full speed, not looking back to the car, and yell drive and haul ass on the dirt road back to a well-lit gas station. Alright, and so they all got in the car and head back to the gas station. Mm-hmm. And they explained to Theral, who stayed in the car, what happened. We couldn't get the girls crying out of our head, and we went back in daylight just to make sure. We did not find a girl. Instead, in the area we heard the crying, we saw a coyote watching us, a closed distance away. It was not shy, just looked at us for 4 seconds and walked into the brush. I did not go back there after that. So, you know what it catches me? The owl and the coyote.
You said it was a bat.
Oh, was it a bat? It was a bat, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. All right.
This time I was listening to you.
Thank you. It reminds me of the Legends of Whiskey Jack.
Explain.
Okay, I didn't do any research on this. This is just stuff that I've heard. Whiskey Jack is basically a corruption of the original name.
Okay.
Which was like a Wasika Jack or something like that.
Okay.
But basically he was a trickster god.
Oh!
For speak for several tribes down south, and I think a little up north too, where he would shapeshift. And one of his favorite animals was the coyote.
Reason why?
I don't know, just because coyotes seems to be more sly.
Okay.
They're more loner than wolves. But he had many animals like ravens and such that he would shapeshift. And not only that, but they said that especially his special animals he could see through.
Ooh.
So if a coyote's watching you, he can see you through the coyote.
So he could ward into him.
So I wonder if there's a connection between Whiskey Jack and the Skinwalkers.
I'm sure they can all be traced to something similar.
But if we're looking at a Skinwalker spell out there, and we got the connections between the Anasazi, who we know believed in Kokopali, I think the same tribes had the Whiskey Jack. I can't be sure. But there might be a connection.
Oh. Okay, so do you have another...
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
This one was by Iron Jesus on Reddit.
Okay.
Thank you, Iron Jesus, for making a name that doesn't send me into a quantum worry.
Okay.
It's a world full of girls.
Mm.
I just can't get over that.
It was written by a guy.
It had to be.
Right. Read.
Not a physicist. Okay, so anybody that has been on the Navajo reservation has either probably heard of some creepy things or have experienced pretty creepy things. Namely, skinwalkers. I've only seen one. Here's my story. I came from a small town in the northern Arizona that's sandwiched between the Paiute Reservation to the north and the U.S. largest Navajo Reservation to the south. My high school being so small, a 1A high school that was on average 80 students enrolled every year, always had to travel south, about 5 to 10 hours one way to play another high school in any sport. This means that we traveled a lot on the Navajo Res, and we also usually stayed at hotels when we would head out to play and come home in the morning. But this trip was a little bit different. I remember the basketball coach saying that the school didn't have enough money to put up the teams in a hotel that trip, so we were going to be on the road for a total of about 12 hours. I was the only male senior to play basketball that season. That's a shame.
Yeah.
You know, the government's hoarding tons of money that these schools could use.
Oh, yeah.
I was the only male senior to play basketball that season. We had just got done playing our game and headed home on our bus, Big Blue. We were headed out, and it wasn't long, about 2 hours of driving, before we had entered the res. By this time, everyone was asleep, with it being about 2 in the morning, when we had crossed the res's border. I noticed the bus driver had sped up and was now going about 85 miles per hour. I thought this was a little weird because he never exceeded the speed limit, at least not in my high school career. For some reason, I couldn't fall asleep like the rest of my teammates, and I just sat at the back of the bus, staring out across the desolate desert landscape that was lit up by the full moon. As I looked out, I could see a figure running towards the bus at an angle of pursuit, and keeping up with the bus at 85 miles per hour. As the figure got closer, I saw that it was a humanoid form. As a matter of fact, it looked exactly like a human, only that the face was painted half black and half white with glowing eyes. Glowing eyes like a rabbit's eyes, were reflecting light from a spotlight. I immediately thought, holy crap, it's a skinwalker. The skinwalker ran up to the edge of the road and just kept up pace with the bus, hurdling sagebrush and rocks while staring at me. After I made eye contact with the thing, I could not look away. It was as if something was holding my head and eyes in place. The skinwalker just smiled at me, this inhuman smile that went ear to ear, showing crooked yellow pointed teeth. I felt like I was going to throw up, and I was panicking through the whole ordeal. The skinwalker started to crumple down onto all fours, all keeping up with the bus. I was panicking I could see his bones cracking and reform. Hair started appearing all over the skinwalker's body, and in about 3 seconds was now a coyote, and it ran off back into the desert out of view. As soon as it was gone, I ran to the onboard bathroom and puked a mixture of food and blood. I didn't want to tell anyone for fear they would think I was crazy, and confided in my Navajo friend. She told me that I needed to see the chief, who also happened to be a friend of mine, and get a blessing. I saw him the next school day in the parking lot. He just came up to me and mumbled something in Navajo while waving a feathered scepter-like thing. Turned around, got into his truck, and drove away. To this day, I haven't seen another skinwalker. It might be due to the fact I moved away from that town in res, and if I do have to go south, I go around, way around.
Damn, I would too.
So puking blood.
That's nasty.
That is not unlike some other people who claim to be bewitched by witches.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They said they would puke up things like nails and blood and...
That's horrible. I like that one.
I like that one a lot. So, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And his bones cracking and reform. Could he not feel that? Does it make him go into like a heroin high where they don't feel things? And
Their adrenaline, maybe?
it could be just a huge adrenaline rush.
Or maybe the pain is part of the appeal.
Because that's one thing I've always noticed with werewolf stories, is especially in werewolf movies, where they always look like they're extreme amounts of pain when they transform.
But like I said, maybe that's part of the appeal. Maybe they like pain. It's a possibility.
Okay, there are, I believe that's sadists,
Yeah.
but that's an extreme kind of sadist. It's like someone who gets
Albert
pregnant
Fish.
just to feel the pain of your bones cracking as the baby's pushed out.
Albert Fish. He would have enjoyed that immensely.
Okay, yeah, but the world's not full of Albert Fishes, and they have to have enough for these legends to work. It's not just one guy.
Yeah,
I think that, for it to work, they would have to have some sort of thing that numbs them to the pain.
or they just don't feel it. Because it's also magic, so it just...
Even if you can't feel it, the sound of your own bones cracking?
I went to the dentist one time, and
Only one time.
Yeah, I don't go to the dentist. Anyway, they were pulling my wisdom tooth out, and I could hear it when they were pulling it out.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it, but I could hear it.
I have a dental phobia, so I don't... Yeah. Ugh.
Well, like with your C-section. You can feel it when they cut into you. I mean, you could feel that there's something...
Somehow not as bad as the dentist.
Being cut, you're being cut open, you're moving around when they're getting in there and everything, but you don't feel any pain. So maybe it's the same sort of thing. They don't feel any pain.
And yet the dentist, you still feel pain.
Oh, you're just...
God, I hate dentists.
Whatever. Alright, well, that was intriguing talk about...
If I was a skinwalker, I'd target dentists.
Yeah, I know you would. You'd stop and be like, what do you do for a living? You're a dentist?
Grrr.
Nice. Or hiss. Hiss.
I would be the worst skinwalker.
Oh, look it. She turned into a little bunny rabbit. Hey, have you seen the video of that jackrabbits getting in a fist fight in the middle of the road?
Yeah.
Those things are scary. I'm not gonna piss on that.
I've seen, my pet rabbit attacked cats.
Oh yeah, that's right. Craziest thing. Okay, so that was intriguing.
Yes.
The Skinwalker Legends. It is interesting and it's a little scary.
I like things I can get my teeth into and try to dig deeper into it. I really wish we could find more of the actual original ancient legends about them.
Yes,
but there's nothing online. It's all stories like this where the kids are running out where they're not supposed to be, and then they run into the
You
Skinwalker.
don't really want to open some doors. Some doors, it's best keep them closed.
The reason I picked these two stories in particular is because they mirror so many others. One where they're running alongside the car.
Oh yeah.
Lots of those, and the other one where they're not supposed to be, and the Skinwalker follows them home.
All right. Well, that was a great show, and now for our next episode, I'm going to. Yeah, no need to do that. I'm going to pick, and we're going to do.
Okay, I'm excited.
Vampires.
Okay.
Oh, it's not that bad.
It's just they're so common. They're everywhere.
Not necessarily.
You know what? I blame Twilight for killing my vampire boner.
That's not Twilight's fault. It was you know what? Actually, it was a different take on vampires, and it gave it a different life.
You know what would have made 30 Shades of Grey better? If he was a vampire.
I don't think anything would have made that better.
Of course, it wouldn't last long because he would eat her. Because he was a real vampire.
Would have sucked on that bloody tampon he pulled out of her.
Oh, God. No.
Oh, that's in the book! Oh, no! Why am I getting shut? No! It's in the book!
Oh, that's so gross! Somehow that is grosser than actually drinking the blood out of her neck.
It's in the book!
Mm-mm.
Yes, it is in the book! Well, I mean, he's not a vampire.
I didn't read the book.
I didn't either, but I knew
the little bits I know about it was from reading What's His Name, who read bits of it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's where I heard about it.
And I was like, that's funny.
I was like, that's nasty. Is that in the book?
Even William Shatner did some reading on it.
Okay, so vampires then next.
Okay, fine. We will do this.
We're gonna do vampires. All right. So thank you for joining us. I'm with your host. I'm Bethany.
I'm Izzy.
And we hope that you will tune in next time for Vampires.
And subscribe into however you're listening to this.
Are you gonna wahaha?
Wahaha!
Okay, you know what? This is becoming annoying. Do it right.
Wahaha?
Oh, don't even.
Wahaha!
Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself.
Wahaha! That was a good one.
Oh.